Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here over the digital airways of YouTube and iHeartRadio. Let's get to the politics in the presidential election, which is now less than 4 weeks away. There are several key demographics that can swing the election in any direction for Democratic nominee Vice President Kamala Harris or Republican nominee and former President Donald Trump. One group that many aren't taking into consideration, as far as I'm concerned, is black men. And I say that based on a New York Times column written very recently by Charles Coleman Jr. Take a look at this excerpt from the column right here. Quote, "Black men today face a unique reality that warrants consideration. Under nearly any relevant index for measuring the quality of American life, how far we get in school, our finances when compared to those of our white counterparts, and how long we will live, black men consistently rank last or near last. There is not a black man alive in this country right now who has ever seen black male unemployment equal to or less than that of his white counterparts. This is true even more acutely for a 34-year-old black man born in 1990 who may have voted in every presidential election since his 18th birthday, saw the election of a black president, and spent more of his adult life with Democrats in the Oval Office than Republicans. How could we not be asking ourselves, come November, which candidate can help us change course?" End quote. Again, that was written by Charles Coleman Jr. He ain't better than my next guest. That article was well written, giving him props. But damn it, he ain't Roland Martin. He ain't Roland Martin Unfiltered. That's who I got right here, right now. What's up, big boy? How you doing, man? How's everything?
Hey, Charles, a nice brother, but he does belong to that youth group called Omega Psi Phi.
That's right. Oh, no. I take every word I said. I take every word I said. That brother Bruce. You watch your mouth. You watch your mouth. Oh, by the way, Roland, I saw you stepping. I said, oh, damn. Roland was getting it on. I had to give you props like that. I didn't know, bro. I didn't know, bro. Not at all. Let me ask you this, man. When you read this article and all, now I got you. Keep it going, because you keeping it going, bro. You was moving pretty damn good. Way to go. And leading the pack, by the way. You were doing your thing in front of an audience. It wasn't in private. You were doing your thing. I got to give it to you. Let's get to this article, Roland. When I read you what I just read, I know you read the whole article, but when I read you what I just read, how did you feel about what he had to say in that column?
So there are a number of things that Charles wrote that I've literally talked about on my show, and actually have been talking about for the last 12 years. So let me unpack that. In 2012, first of all, I sent you guys a graphic. So in 2008, black men, 95% voted for Obama, 5% voted for then Senator McCain. Then it jumps to 11 in 2012. Why is that? Because you heard black men were saying they felt that Obama did not deliver. So there was a 9-point gap between black men and black women. So then when you go to 2016, then the number increases. A lot of people kept saying misogyny, they ain't supporting a woman in Hillary Clinton, but they ignored it was 2 men in 2012. Now you go to 2020, it was 2 men. Biden, Trump. And what then happens? Same thing. Okay, you see the number increase. Now, the chart that you just showed, it's important to understand. Black men.
It's still up there.
Black men are like all other men. They're naturally more conservative. White men, Hispanic men, Asian men, black men.
That's true.
That's a male issue. But when it comes to Democrats, black women are their number 1 voting bloc. Black men are still their number 2. So what do you now like? So what's going on here? What's the difference? What Trump does, Trump presents this tough guy. I'm manhood. I'm a do what I say. I say what I mean. That is attractive. Right. That's attractive to a certain group of men. Now, when Charles was talking about this dissatisfaction in terms of these perceptions that, the Democratic Party is a party of women, Well, first of all, perception is a lie. Now, we say sometimes one perception becomes reality. Here's the reality about black men. Who's the highest ranking black man in the Democratic Party? No, the highest ranking African American in the Democratic Party. You got Vice President Kamala.
Would that be Hakeem?
Right. But the minority leader is Hakeem
Jeffries.
Who was the person who actually made it possible for Biden to win? Congressman Jim Clyburn. Are there more black male members? There are 3 black members of the United States Senate. There are 4. 3 men, 1 woman. Okay? 3 Democrat, 1 Republican, and Tim Scott. In the House, there are more black men than black women. We can keep going on and on and on. Now, what brothers are reacting to, and I've heard this for last decade, brothers are reacting to, all they hear is black girl magic, black girl magic, black girl magic. But what black men got to understand is we've been the ones getting all the attention for decades. We got to take into account paternalism, sexism, misogyny. So, for instance, if I ask, I guarantee you this, Stephen A., and not just brothers with high school diplomas, brothers with college degrees, if I ask them, how does the Montgomery boycott start? They gonna say, oh, that was Dr. King and the preachers. No, it wasn't. It was Joanne Robinson, an Alabama State professor, and the Women's Political Council. They're the ones who started the bus boycott. So we have to understand that men, let's go Shirley Chisholm. When she ran for president at the Black Political Convention in Gary, Indiana, the black men did not want to endorse her.
Right.
Didn't want to endorse her. So we got to understand.
So that level of misogyny is not just about black men. It's about men, period. Across the board, whether it's white, black, Hispanic, or whatever. Misogyny, stereotypes, those kind of things. I got you. I got you.
Men thinking a woman shouldn't do certain jobs or she can't be a leader. Well, the reality is there have been female leaders all across the world. Mexico, female president. India, Golda Meir was leading this. We can go on and on and on.
Okay.
But what Charles laid out, it is true that it's a huge piece here. What Democrat, and I'm gonna say Democratic white strategists don't understand, is that the further you get away from the Black civil rights movement, black people less self-identify as Democrats. You and I are Gen X. I've been really paying attention to this since I graduated from college in 1991. You and I are in different tax brackets than our parents. You and I, and others are focusing on things that our parents didn't focus on. So what now begins to happen? You now begin to look at stuff differently. If you never owned the business, you didn't care about a corporate tax rate. You now own the business, you do.
Yes, you do.
So it's a pocketbook issue. So what Democrats have not done is they have not crafted a strategy on how do you micro-target black people. You got to talk to a college-educated black woman different from a non-educated black woman. You got to talk to a brother who in rural America different than urban America. They've always had sort of this one size fits all. But so what you're now seeing in the data, you're now seeing people go, you ain't talking to me, so I'm gonna start looking at other options.
Okay, and I'm saying to you, and this is where I can get on you, because you dropping facts, I'm not disputing it, but then you'll turn around and you'll point out how folks on the right, well, you know what, they ain't worth a damn. Look at what we trying to do here on the left. But on the left, you've got folks that are strategists that are in the ears and in the head of candidates that are manipulating the proceedings, and they ain't paying attention to our community, like you just highlighted.
But here's the problem. The problem is the strategy don't look like me and you. So the problem.
I agree.
So the problem is the strategists control the money, control the messaging. They're not paying attention to the streets. They're not paying attention to the ground. So when you listen to the ground, you now got to realize you now have to communicate with people differently. Now, when I went through Charles's column, he was talking about issues, criminal justice reform. He was talking about health, things on those lines. Here are the facts, and it's just flat out facts. When you look at the difference between Trump, Harris, Democrats, and Republicans wanted to end the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act specifically has helped Black folks get insurance, which means help Black men. So when Black men say, well, I need to hear something specific. Well, when the vice president worked on 3.5 years, the issue of Black infant mortality, that impacts Black men. I had a brother say, no, it don't. I said, brother, when she's talking about infant mortality, she ain't just talking about the sister with the baby, because the sister is birthing Black boys. I said, that's
but my problem. Stop right there. I need you to stop right there, because my point is, I ran into to Senator Chris Coon. I know you know who that is, based out of Delaware. All right, Chris Coon, based out of Delaware. He's done some HBCU work with me, and I really, really appreciate him for that. Right. But he asked me about a question. I brought up your name because obviously anytime somebody's talking to me about politics, particularly on the left and what they're trying to do and voices out there that should be listened to and heard, I always point them in your direction, my brother. I never hesitate. Don't come to me. Listen to that brother right there. He know a lot more about that. I'm venturing into it. I ain't trying to be no expert in this lane. I want no parts of it. But I will say this to you. The messenger matters as much as the message. And if you're going to sit there and say, we've got a vice president who is Black, who is the Democratic nominee for the president, who is a Black woman, who we have a minority, Speaker of the House, in Hakeem Jeffries, he's Black. We saw, Clyburn, he got Biden elected. If you're going to bring up all of these things, then how do these surrogates, how do these folks that are really financing the campaigns and what have you get away with not paying attention to the Black community when you know you need them in order to win? Why are those folks in power letting these folks get away with that? Are you trying to win or are you not?
Right. And first of all, you're absolutely right. And messages do matter. I can tell you in 2016, on the night of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation ALC dinner, I literally told Hillary Clinton to her face, listen, you're going to lose this because your people got their heads stuck in their iPads, not listening to the ground. I told her, I've been trying to get your Black male surrogates on my show and your people are not responding. And she was high. She said, she literally said to Huma and to Marlon Marshall, if Roland's not getting them, I know others are not as well. And so you've got to have the voices out there. I can tell you, Black men were saying early in the Biden-Harris administration, where are your Black male administrative folks? And so you're right. You got to be sending out trusted messengers. What the vice president has been doing is she sees this as an opportunity. She's been speaking to them when she's been speaking to the various groups. She's been having the conversations, but you got to have more conversations. But this is now where the challenge comes in. Here's the challenge now, Stephen A. And I wrote everything Charles wrote. Well, I'm gonna tell you something. I'll blow you away. When the Black women
go ahead, I'm listening.
When the Black women met in 2020, Win with Black Women, they launched that to get her the VP nomination. She got it. They kept meeting. They've been meeting every Sunday for 4 years. Do you know how many times brothers were like, "Yo, man, we got to meet"? And I said, "We'll organize it." It never happened. Do you know why? Because typically, when stuff got organized in the Black community, sisters are the one that did it. So when we did the Win with Black Men call, phenomenal. 55,000 folks were on the call the day after the sisters did. But guess what? It's a whole bunch of these brothers ain't been on the call since then. So here's what I'm saying to Charles and to every Black man out there. I can't wait for the Democratic Party to speak to Black men. I need Black men mobilizing and organizing, speaking to Black men about our issues. So I have been, this goes back more than a decade. I have directly challenged my frat Alpha Phi Alpha. I've challenged all the fraternities in Divine Nine, but also I challenged the Prince Hall Masons. I challenged Black men's groups. See, we can sit here and say, hey, you know what? The party ain't doing this here, but this ain't about party. This is about us. It's about us.
Yeah, but they never listen, Roland. You know that. Come on, Roland. You know they don't listen. If there's one thing, and you know this better than most, because you are a Black man that speak, and you can't stand when people ain't listening, because you know they should be listening to you, and it drives you crazy, okay? You know historically, Black folks, Black men lament their voices being heard. And oh, by the way, little kept secret, we gonna put it out there on Front Street. A lot of times we don't feel the women are listening to us. And so that plays a role too. And that's not fair. That's not always fair. Because a lot of times they are listening. We just ain't making no damn sense sometimes. So I get that part.
I can tell
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
First of all, black women been swinging for us for a long time, even when we were silent.
Oh, no doubt.
So here's what, and when we start talking about policy, when these brothers, I'm in Philadelphia right now doing a show tonight. I'm at Lincoln University tomorrow. When brothers come up to me and they say, man, I ain't doing nothing, I then go, what do you mean? So when Charles was talking about criminal justice reform, he was like, well, they didn't get the George Floyd Justice Act. They didn't. Biden-Harris signed an executive order. This Civil Rights Division has investigated 12 police departments, one under Donald Trump. So things are actually happening. What has to happen is we have to make sure that we are also more organized to challenge power to actually get things done. So what should be happening right now is, with less than 30 days, brothers should be asking themselves, okay, everything Charles laid out is great. Here's the question. I'm a black man. What are the 5 things I care about? And where does Harris line up? And where does Trump line up? And if I got more check marks by Harris' name, I ain't even thinking about Donald Trump. Because see, let's be real clear. I'm going to put this out. You and I, it don't actually matter who wins. They don't actually have a material impact on us because of, frankly, where we are financially. But let me say this here to a brother out there who is asking the questions about unemployment, getting the capital for a business, things along those lines. You better be asking yourself, who cares about your health care? Who cares about your education? Who cares about civil rights? Who cares about the environment? You got a hurricane bearing down another one all across the country. If you a brother, who's providing benefits to you to be able to escape that so you can take care of your family? What we got to do is stop saying what folk not doing and step back and say, well, maybe, let me find out what people are doing and then how that's impacting my life.
Roland. I can feel you on that, Roland, but here's my deal. Like, for example, that message being sent by you is admirable. I'm glad I'm giving you my airwaves. You got your own, but I'm glad I'm giving you my airwaves to say, what you're saying, because you deserve it. The flip side to this is this, though. Kamala Harris should be saying that more effectively. And oh, by the way, I appreciate her on The View. I appreciate her on Stephen Colbert. I appreciate her in those platforms. They ain't Roland Martin. Now let me give you, and I know how liberal leaning you are. But I also know that even when liberals sit in front of you, they better bring their stuff. It's going to be a problem. You ain't going to let them off the hook.
Actually, I'll say this. I'm black leaning.
Yeah, fine. Right.
No.
I'm good with it. No, I'm good with that. I'm good with that. That's accurate. I'm just saying, where the hell, I ain't see, did she sit down with you yet?
Hold up. That's actually happening. Soon.
Okay. All right.
So,
okay.
But to your point, trust me, and I've been saying this for years as well. You're absolutely right. You have to also, for instance, about 3 weeks ago, she was on Ricky Smiley's show. They did all the smoke, but that's also part of the deal. Part of the deal is with these campaigns. I'm talking about strategists now. And again, they don't look like us. This is also getting them to understand you better have a better respect for Black-owned media and for Black voices, and also how you're communicating. Again, where the campaigns have made a mistake is they don't understand the old model of hitting the Black churches, going into NAACP. That's gone. We're now living in a world. It's a digital world, a technology world. They're getting information from different voices, from podcasts, from digital shows. Listen, I pulled the data the other day. I said somebody, I've done your show 3 times. If you add up all the views, it almost hits 1 million. Guess what? It's the shows on CNN not even getting 400,000 people. So that's why those shows are mad, because people are going to other places. Look, 65% of my YouTube audience are Black men. What needs to be happening here, the messaging absolutely has to change. They got to be driving out more surrogates. But what you are seeing is you are seeing her talk about the opportunity. But what also has to happen when we start talking about facts, when a brother tell me, man, Trump with the stimulus checks, I go, do you realize that Biden has gave you a bigger check in 2021?
That's right.
Are you aware
Trump gave us money? Trump gave us money for HBCUs. Do you realize that Biden is giving you a lot more for HBCUs? You realize that?
Wait, hold on. I'm about to really mess you up. The budget that Trump submitted cut HBCU funding.
I didn't know that.
The budget that Dr. Walter Kimbrough, who's been a HBCU president in 4 different schools, has broken down. He submitted budgets that actually cut HBCU funding. It was restored by Congress. But he's been pushing a lie. But again, folk fell for the lie of, oh no, I guaranteed them funding. Not true. So all these
I saw your show. I saw your show when you did that. I saw that guest on your show when you had to check him. I remember I watched that.
There you go. So all these people who are talking about what they haven't done, like again, the Trump Department of Justice said we're going to pull back on consent decrees because they hurt police morale. The Trump, Jeff Sessions, Bill Barr, they investigated 1 police department. Biden Harris, DOJ, they've investigated 12. They've literally put cops in prison. So if you're saying who's been better on criminal justice reform, who's been holding cops accountable, it ain't even close. The problem is, and I've criticized the White House. I said, y'all gotta have, I've hit Karine Jean-Pierre saying, when are you gonna talk about that from the podium? Every time they do it, I do it on my show. But the White House has not been aggressive at telling their own story, with what Charles is talking about, and that's real. And if I interview the vice president, we're gonna talk about it. Not if, when I interview the vice president, we're gonna discuss that.
My last question, I'm gonna throw this about because this is a deep proportion. This is my thinking, and I'm not saying it's different than yours. It's just that being in corporate America, having to maneuver through the terrain that we both have had to maneuver through for decades, knowing the challenges that we face. One of the things that I'm popular for saying is flatter me. You know, I want to buy a house. I ain't buying it without you showing it to me. I got to look in it. I want to buy a car. I want to see. I want to test drive that bad boy. I got to see it. You know, and then I think about civil rights, 1964. I think about voting rights, 1965. I think about Lyndon B. Johnson talking about we'll have the Negroes voting for us for the next 200 years if we pull this off. He was the president, but both Republicans and Democrats supposedly brought it to his desk to be signed, and the Democrats got all the credit for it. And ever since that time, to me, we have said to the Republican Party, we want nothing to do with y'all. And the Democratic Party has known this. So on one side, you got a party that knows they ain't going to get our support, as your chart showed. So therefore, they ain't going to do but so much. And on the left, they know they got our support. So how much do they have to do for us beyond lip service, which to me epitomizes the struggle involving disenfranchisement to some degree when we're talking about our community. It is fair for me to ask you, as my brother and my boy and who I respect, how right I am or how wrong I am in feeling that way, what I just articulated. I'll give you the last word and I'll lean on what you say.
You're partly right, but you got to go back way further.
Okay.
Black people coming out of slavery, people of African descent, formerly enslaved people of African descent, aligned with Republicans because there was a group called the Radical Republicans. It was the Radical Republicans that pushed forth the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, and they were opposed to slavery. Then you had about an 8 to 10 year period of Reconstruction. Black people were running for office. Majority of the South Carolina legislature, on and on and on. Then there was an election in 1876, contested election. They cut a deal, which is called the Great Compromise of 1877, where they pulled the federal troops out of the last 3 southern states. What then happened? Then the racist Southern Democrats took over and ran all the black people out. What then happened was the Radical Republicans, they stopped protecting black people. Black folks were angered. So then when you go through the black people, half of black people, and Bruce Bartlett, longtime Republican, go to his Twitter feed, he literally tweeted a bunch of this stuff earlier today. that you go through the early 20th century, more than 50% of black people were still voting Republican. Then the Republicans started aligning with Southern Democrats. It was called the Lily White movement. Y'all look up Lily White movement. Herbert Hoover was a leader of the Lily White movement. Then all of a sudden, you start going forward. Then what then happened? Well, a lot of these Republicans joined with Southern Democrats. They opposed FDR when it came to benefits for black people. Guess what? Started losing black support. Go to 1960. Kennedy, Nixon. Nixon was not aggressive in going after the black vote. That angered Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson talked about it in his book. And then you go to 64. 1964, it was Barry Goldwater, Senator Barry Goldwater, who opposed the 64 Civil Rights Act. That's when the break happened. That's when black folks said, oh, the hell with this here. We done with y'all. And that's when it flipped. Then you go to 68. They began to, and a lot of the Republicans were supportive of civil rights. And then go look at the Barry Goldwater book, The Conscience of a Conservative. And it is that book where the shift began to happen. Then you have the Southern Strategy. They began conservative Democrats, conservative Republicans, and people about to be blown away. A lot of those Republicans supported the 64 Civil Rights Act, 65 Voting Rights Act, but they filibustered the 68 Civil Rights Act. It was Senator Edward Brooke, black man, my alpha brother, who broke the filibuster of the Senate. But check this out. It continued in the House because the Republicans were like, well, we don't want them living with us as well. They'll join with the Democrats. King gets assassinated April 4, 68. LBJ sends a letter on April 5th, 68 saying, let's pass this bill to honor his legacy. It's signed into law 9 days later. But ever since then, the Republicans begin to use the Southern strategy. And they begin to align with those Southern Democrats, those Dixiecrats, and begin to drive on the issue of race. And ever since then, now, here, so Republican, you look, one of the first bills, I want to blow you away, one of the first bills Republicans took up after Trump won, became in 2017, they got rid of an Obama-era law to end discrimination in auto loans. One of the first bills. So what Republicans have not done is Republicans have made a decision. If we support a lot of this stuff black people care about, that's going to antagonize our white base. 70% of all voters, Stephen A., in America are still white. So what you're seeing right now, the Teamsters and all these unions, think about it. Biden-Harris is the most pro-union administration in more than 50 years. Why are some of these union workers still supporting Trump? Because they're picking whiteness and culture over their own pocketbook. We got to understand, my book, White Fear, breaks it down. It's all there. Republicans are not going to support a lot of the issues that we care about because it does not align with their white base. That is a fact. And that's what you're seeing in the racial politics. And last point, real quick. When they keep saying the working class. Real quick. No.
Real quick.
The black working class is with Harris. Latino working class with Harris. The white working class, that's who's not with Harris. But they always leave out the white part and don't want to talk about that. You got to confront whiteness as an identity in America to understand American politics, even in 2024.
One of the things I'm determined to do is to have a white conservative on this show to debate against you. I would love to see that. That would be must-see television. My brother, I got to get on. I know you ain't running. I know you coming. Listen, man, I appreciate you as always. You deserve the last word on that. I really appreciate that education and that perspective, my man. Thank you so much. Roland Martin, Unfiltered. Roland Martin, Unfiltered. Get registered. Always get registered. Vote. Go to the damn polls. Absolutely. Appreciate you, my brother. We'll talk soon. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.